Hello, I'm Kat. I'm a watercolor illustrator. In this video I'm going to talk about how I came up with an idea for a new silly project called Birds with Hats, and how I chose the birds that I was working with, and talk you through the whole process from idea to creating the art to completion and production. I'm planning to sell these postcards both on my online store and in person at conventions, and hopefully they can make a lot of people happy. So let's get started. Part 1. The idea. Whenever I start a new project, or as my friend says, project with a capital P, for art, I like to take two things I like and smush them together and then create a series of sorts. So one of my most popular series is I like mythical creatures and I like anatomy, so I smash them together, create mythical skeletons. So this time, birds with hats. On the surface, pretty simple, but actually, like looking back, I looked at a bunch of my old art. I've always liked to draw birds, be it traditionally or digitally since I was a kid. And also, when creating a new series or a new product, you are thinking about what would the customers like. So birds are quite popular, and it's a delicate balance you have to walk. You have to create something that you would like to purchase. You gotta be your biggest fan. You gotta be 100% behind your project, because if you're not, then who else will, right? As I said, I really like birds and colors. There's a lot of potential, and also like if the series took off, then I knew like there's so many different birds. This could go on forever. And as for hats, when I graduated university in 2016, I was designing business cards for myself. So here I used some of the characters that I made at the time, really cute cat, some dragons, and in the end I settled on a blue cat. Blue's my favorite color, with a funny little beanie hat, because I was wearing beanies all the time. A few years later I made an animation when I was still doing 2D animations, and I actually also own a huge collection of funny hats, and people who know me make or gift me hats all the time. So yeah, it's quite a lot of hats. It's getting a little bit out of hand. This isn't even all of them, but yeah, so these are two things that I'm weirdly passionate about. I like to combine things and things that just make me happy. Part 2. The art. Now that we've established the idea, let me talk you through how I actually created the art of the birds. This one I call Raven in a Witch's Hat. It was one of my favorites, especially because it was kind of hard to conceptualize at first. Ravens, you look at them and most of them are just kind of black, but if you look at a bird's feather, it actually has a lot of beautiful colors, iridescence, almost like a holographic look when the sun shines at it. So ravens have this chest floof that is blue and purple, so that's why I chose the hat to be purple. To draw, I use a mix of watercolor pencils and watercolors. I use pencils by Faber-Castell. They are very soft, very chalky, and you apply water to them, it dissolves very nicely. So I go back and forth, working in many layers, continuing to apply contrast and more color to areas of shadow, and then applying water to it, smudging it a little bit, blending it into the layers of the color that are already there, and then going back into it and drawing on top, defining the feathers. Obviously the focal point of the bird is the face and the hat. Areas like the belly, that like a big black blob, I don't apply as much detail to it, but you also don't want it to all blend together. So what I end up doing most of the time is draw a bunch of the feathers, but not all of them, and then add some shadow to basically trick you into thinking that the entire bird is covered in feathers without actually having to draw every single one. And then the eye is drawn towards the area with most of the detail, while the rest is like it's kind of like a fake out of focus. That works really well in most cases. I was googling pictures of hats, comparing them to birds, what kind of hat corresponds with this bird's vibe, and then the first one I did was a budgie with a sailor's hat. I chose them because of the shape language. It fit very well together. The budgie's like kind of round and cute, and the sailor's hat is like was wrapping his head really nicely. Sometimes I would have a really good idea. Like for example, at first I wanted to put a witch's hat on the cardinal because of his back crest, but then I ended up choosing something else because I wanted to save the witch hat for a raven, which fit much better thematically. Part 3, digitizing. It's just a fancy word for scanning your picture in and then editing it so it can be prepared for print. Since I draw all my pictures traditionally, I use a scanner to scan it in, and then I import it into Photopea, which is a free version of Photoshop that works in your browser. It's amazing, I can't recommend it enough. And then I use a bunch of tools like erasers and brushes to delete artifacts and clean up the edges of my drawings. Something that is very attractive about watercolor is that it's like a little bit messy and not as clean as digital art or, let's say, marker. So I make sure to not delete every little smudge or every little mistake I make. Sometimes it's nice to look at a painting and see that the artist actually drew not precisely inside the lines and give it like a more organic and more rugged look, especially if the subject of your picture is something organic like a bird. I really wanted to turn these into postcards. I love getting physical mail, and I think people don't send each other physical mail enough, and I was toying with the idea of like maybe creating some puns or jokes or like writing howdy on them or whatever, but I chose to leave them blank in the end. So it's not limiting. A friend of mine, after seeing some of the art pieces, actually said that she could see them on like a expensive bottle of wine as like the label. I think this is the best compliment I've ever gotten. Part 4, file prep. File prep is essentially you take all the pictures that you've scanned and edited and you prepare them for print. I knew I was going to print postcards, which were 6 by 4 inches, and it is important to leave a bleed. A bleed means that you submit your picture with a little bit of a margin on each side, so when the print shop cuts them, they can cut off the bleed, and then your picture will go straight to the edges of your postcard. Otherwise, you will have a tiny white border. So I set up a new file that was 6.25 by 4.25 inches, which left 0.125 inches of bleed on each side. I dragged and dropped all of my birds into that file, and you see me going back and forth, kind of toggling the layers. I do that so to make sure that all the birds are the same size. So when people buy multiple postcards, like some birds are not super out of proportion and they all seem like they're part of a series, even if they themselves have wildly differing proportions. Part 5, production. To actually print my postcards, I went with a Canadian-based printing shop called Little Rock Printing, and the parcel finally arrived. So I thought we could unbox it together. I haven't actually taken a look, I just ripped off the thing that had my address on it, so no doxing. I'm so excited. I usually much prefer printing locally, which means just going to my local print shop with all my full-size prints and then monopolizing either their employees or their scanners to scan in all my stuff. But since I had 12 designs this time and I needed a very low amount of each, preferably 10 or 15, and I wanted to do all the scanning and the file prep in peace, I went with a company that had a very nice online uploader that I could use. You saw me create the files earlier, so let's take a look. First up is the Blue Jay. I printed on 13-point uncoated paper. Uncoated just means there's no extra shiny, super shiny coat on top. And it means that the paper has like a little bit of texture still to it, almost like watercolor paper in a way. So, So the front is always different. Obviously, it's all the different birds. It looks awesome on the first glance. The paper is thick and nice. The birds are super vibrant, and the back is always the same. I designed it based on a traditional postcard with the lines and nice little doodle. So let's go through all of them. Next up is the cannery. Like setting them next to each other. The colors are so nice. They actually look, I don't know if the camera picks it up, but they actually look like they're drawn in pencil. I am so happy with these. I think next time I'll choose a slightly thicker paper, because if I hold these against the light, the back shines through a little bit. But this is very good for a first attempt. Next, the cardinal. This one's a little more magenta than the original piece, but still pretty good. And it works with all the others. Pigeon. Amazing. Our favorite guy, the budgie. I actually have the original here. Some of the others are put away, so we can compare the colors. And it is... oh damn, it is almost a one-to-one match. Let me put it closer to the camera. Yeah, I'm super happy with this. It's nice and stocky. It's like a little bit shiny, but it is... it feels good. It feels good to like write on. The printer picked up all the very subtle tones up really well. Like where the neck is, and it's just very slightly gray. Ah, yes, my babies! Now that the postcards are done, all that was left was to take some product photos, post them to my Etsy store, write a nice description, and then put them all back away. So for my next convention, which is in May in Lethbridge, Alberta, I could sell them at my booth. I have these like nice black shelves that I can display my postcards on. If you ever see me at any convention, I will be selling these postcards. They will of course be a little cheaper than on my online store since we don't have to pay for shipping. And I hope people will like them. I have invested quite a bit of time and resources into making them. I don't know if the gamble to make 12 postcards at once will pay off. If maybe like only one of them will sell, maybe two, or maybe none. Or maybe I'm gonna be positively surprised and it's gonna be my best-selling series. But if you don't take risks, there's no payoff. And as I said, most of the items I create are usually things I want to have myself. So I'm gonna be using these postcards and sending them to my friends for birthdays. And I just hope that I can make some of the money back that I spent into getting them printed. Let me know what bird with hat you would like to see. If I'm open for pet commissions. If you want me to paint your bird or your friend's bird or like any of your favorite bird with a hat or without, send me a message, leave a comment to boost the YouTube algorithm. That would be very much appreciated. And I hope you took something from this video, maybe a little smile or some advice. I would love to hear what you do, if you do your own series or where you get your postcards printed. And watch out for the next one. Bye! Birds with hats! Birds with hats! Birds with hats!